Alright everybody, welcome back. Have you ever wanted a MiG-19 with flares? Well, this is the closest thing you're gonna get to it. This is the Q-5A. It's a modified MiG-19 in the Chinese tree at 9.0. And to be honest, I'm really not 100% sure how it's 9.0 because the flareless version is also 9.0, but I just wouldn't question it. But in any case, the Q-5 is a relatively interesting aircraft. The Chinese wanted to take a MiG-19 and make it more optimized for ground attack. They did quite a few things to do that. First of all, they added a bomb bay, which they then proceeded to never use. Later on, they put a fuel tank in there instead. They swapped out the 30 mils for 23s, which I guess makes sense because they do have a little bit more ammo, but you also get less trigger time because it has a faster fire rate. They also went ahead and put more powerful engines there, added some other features as well, and most of it, of course, is optimized for that ground attack role I mentioned, and I'll be talking about the CAT later on, which this thing is really good at, by the way. But in the meantime, this is an ARB focus channel, right? And I assume since you clicked on the video, you want to see how it does against fighters. And this thing is pretty cracked for a 9.0. Just purely because of the absolutely ridiculous energy retention and acceleration that this thing has because of these more powerful engines. Now that doesn't mean that it is the best thing at 9.0 for getting kills because it does definitely feel pretty clunky. I can't tell you how many times today while trying to get this footage I've had cases where I bait somebody, I get them stalled out, they're ready for me to swoop down in on them, and right when I'm coming around to shoot them, somebody else swoops in and gets the kill. Like, you can even see it several times in this video alone. I get my guns on somebody, they die. Now, whenever you do get your guns on somebody, this thing is pretty hard to shake. Now, you will have to use plenty of air brake, because as you can see, this thing compresses hard at the higher speeds. And I'll have a clip showing just how hard here in a little bit. But sometimes you can't even pull hard enough to get the G indicator to show up. And if you're above like 1100, you're lucky to be pulling 6, maybe 7 Gs. It does not like to pull. Now, if you can get it down lower in speeds, it actually pulls very hard. And there's been a lot of cases where I'm actually able to stick behind subsonics like Sabres or F9Fs. Now, that's assuming I'm on their tail in the first place, and it's partially because I can just pull a lot of A away. But you get the point. This thing is relatively maneuverable at those lower speeds. Now, when you're at high speed, the air brakes will get you slowed down relatively quickly. They are pretty good at that. My only gripe is that you have this really narrow sweet spot where the plane will actually pull. Because at lower speeds, while yes, it will pull, the engines can't really accelerate it fast enough at lower speeds. They're more optimized for high speed, at least from what I can tell. And so you have a lot of cases where either you're going too fast and you're compressing, or you're going too slow and you're not able to get your speed back up. And even though this thing is pretty much untouchable, that's assuming that you play incredibly passively. And so if you're going fighter mode, like I am, there are going to be cases when you are going to die just because you're trying to be aggressive, you slow down too much, and then all of a sudden you can't get your speed back before a Sabre or something else is able to catch up to you and shoot you. So I am actually going to go ahead and play that clip now, the compression that I was talking about. I was chasing an F-104 right here. You can see I'm almost keeping up with him because of those engines, but the problem is, well, A, of course, my 23s can't really reach him, and B, he's about to pull, and just watch the comparison right here. We're going the same speed pretty much, and the F-104 easily pulls inside of me and gets away. I'm sitting here, my G thing isn't showing up. Now, I did just pass 1200, but I was going like 1100 earlier, which is the speed you can regularly expect to hit on the deck, and I could not actually get the G indicator to show up, like, at all. When you're fighting all these subsonic planes, like you can see I'm fighting A4s, I'm fighting Sabres, I'm fighting Demons, all that kind of stuff, it doesn't really matter for the most part, because similar to other supersonics, you can just zoom in, shoot them, zoom on out again. And this is really like the epitome of that sort of boom and zoom style that you're used to seeing. Because especially at 9.0, it has a pretty decent matchmaker. And so you'll be getting into games with stuff like Canberras, for example. And this thing will absolutely run them down. There is nothing that is faster than this plane in a 9.0 lobby. Or at least as far as I can remember. If I am wrong, someone let me down in the comments below. But like the only other 9.0 I can think of that would even come close to this thing is the F11. And that can't break Mach in a straight line on the deck. It has to do that at higher altitudes. So, pretty sure this is going to be the fastest aircraft in the game. But in any case, you can see I am easily running down this Sabre. And I'll actually be able to show you off a little case of what I was talking about where you can kind of hang with the subsonics as well. Now, it's definitely not as maneuverable as something like a Saber, but you can see what I'm doing right here. I've cut my throttle. I'm getting down to that speed where I can start turning, and now all of a sudden, I'm able to pull inside the Saber. I get some hits off right here, and then nice, easy shot. Now, he does cut in front of me, which lets me pull that off in the first place, but you can see this thing is relatively maneuverable at those lower speeds. Now, additionally, to complement that sort of boom and zoom style, the 23s hit like a truck. Now, I did get a crit there, but for the most part, if I hit somebody, they die. I will say the problem sometimes is hitting them because these 23s do have pretty low velocity. I would recommend aiming a little bit more than you expect you have to. I know they're supposed to be, you know, exports NR23s the faster fire rate, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just me or what, the velocity feels off compared to the NR23s that I'm used to when it comes to, you know, the LA-15, for example, which I really enjoy playing. And of course, it also just could be that, you know, the planes are also going a lot faster as well. So, I mean, who knows? But that is definitely something to consider. Now, here's a case of what I was talking about earlier where I got too slow. I can't really accelerate fast enough. And this F-40 Sabre is going to hit my engine. Now, luckily, one of my teammates is going to finish him off for me. But if there wasn't somebody nearby, I do give an overshoot. But there's a very good chance that if he was a little bit better of a shot, I would have died right there. So it's not untouchable if you mess up, but I mean, to be honest, if you're playing this thing passively, or at least, you know, keeping your speed up, nothing at or below your battle rating can catch you, and most of the stuff at 9.3 or 9.7, you can just energy trap. As for CAS, this thing is very competent for a 9.0. It gets CCIP for its cannons, rockets, and bombs, and it does have an RWR, but only an IA band, which is really going to limit what you're able to detect. Those rockets are 7.68 kilogram high explosive warheads. The bombs are only 250 kilograms, but I mean, hey, it's still better than nothing, and you do get CCIP, and so you see, you get a crosshair showing you exactly where your bombs are going to land. And so I'm able to use it to lead this Leopard. I'm going to track him, I'm going to come back and finish him off, because these bombs aren't very big. You're going to have to get either direct or near hits. But having 4 of these with CCIP would already make this thing one of the best 9.0 platforms. And then you also get these rockets as well, which are very competent. They're especially good for killing light targets, like, for example, if a, hypothetically speaking, an AA, like an M163, for example, is shooting at you. They're pretty accurate as well. You're able to just go ahead and volley these things off from very far away, and you can finish off any anti-aircraft stuff before you're actually, you know, in danger. And of course, this thing is also still capable of killing any aircraft that are up, just like this SE-25 right here. And with how many of those SE-25s you see, having flares is a pretty big deal, because you're not just going to get beamed by an R60M like I did in my last video. Speaking of which, with how good this thing is at CAS, it really doesn't make me feel good about the F100F, because that thing is just honestly worse at a higher BR when it comes to CAS than the Q-5A. It's a shame that the Q-5L at 9.7 with the guided bombs doesn't have flares, because it really makes it not worth it. But to be honest, this thing is good enough that I'm not too fussed about it anyways. Just use the Q-5A instead. Maybe at some point, guys, you will realize that, hey, the exact same airframe can use flares. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. This plane is pretty interesting. I have a good time flying it, just because it is so incredibly stupid for 9.0 that, especially in the 8.0 matches that you get, it is just hilarious. By the way, if you did enjoy this video, if you want to see more in the future, I'd appreciate if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 10,000 before the end of the year. I'll catch y'all next time, though, so peace, y'all.